Good morning. We're doing something different today, as I've been telling you guys for the past couple of days. We are starting a live Q&A session, and it'll be just this, essentially. Me answering your questions as you bring them in. I've got a couple questions that I'm going to start with that we had going the other day. When we did our live Q&A on last Wednesday. So we're going to start with a couple of questions that I had left over from that, and then we're going to kind of jump into it. Today is a lot more interactive than the past couple days. So, glad you're here. I see Chambers, you're in here. Sam, Beth, what's up? Good to see you guys. Glad you guys are here. So be sure to shoot your questions in the chat. Or if you have some other way you'd like to submit your questions in, I guess you could text them to me if you have my number. A lot of you do. But like I said, we're going to start with some questions from a couple of, from last week when we were doing, the Q&A back in the worship center. So this is really informal. This is really simple, and hopefully, you guys will get a lot out of this. What up, Dylan? The first question I wanted to start with is, my older brother hopped in on the chat for a couple weeks ago and asked me if I believed that Lightning McQueen from the movie Cars would buy car insurance or life insurance. See, for me, I gotta feel like it would be life insurance because, I don't feel like that. I mean, but then again, they buy tires, so I don't know. I have a rationale behind this, and that is you look at the Cars movies, and there's a lot of stuff that kind of makes them look like they're basically people, but they're cars because they have wars. And in Cars 2, there's a car pope that shows up, which means that there's Catholicism, which implies a whole lot of other stuff. So yeah. Hey, Drew.
Hey,
Drew
can you
Dabbs
hear
has
me?
joined us for the Q&A. Yes, I can hear
Man,
you.
I'm glad you're starting with the hard-hitting questions that the world needs
Honestly,
to hear.
I mean, when was the last time that if you think about this really thoroughly, the thorough logic of the Cars franchise doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Um, so I try not to think about it way too much. I'm glad that Beth and J. Scott appreciated Catholicism. Um,
Oh,
but yeah. Okay, so that was the first question. The question was, do you think that Lightning McQueen from Cars buys life insurance or car insurance?
yeah, definitely life insurance. I don't even
Yeah,
understand why is this a debate?
I
It's
don't
it's
understand.
definitely life insurance.
Also, do you think that when they get pulled over, they have to provide proof of life insurance?
No.
Okay, second question. This is also hard hitting, but people last week really, really wanted to know, Drew, what type of shampoo do you use?
Man, I'm glad they finally asked.
No,
Uh,
they asked a lot. They just never got to us. So,
yeah, part of the uniqueness of my situation is I am um, tenaciously trying to hold on to the hair that I have left to me. So I actually use this really expensive shampoo called Loma that's supposed to keep the hair on my head. Yeah, I know, Jay Scott. I know they asked out of pity, and I'm okay with that. Um, and you know what? I fully expected to be totally bald by the time I'm 25, and I still got a little bit hanging out up there. So and it is expensive, but because I have so little hair left, I don't have to use that much of it. So it's pretty great.
um, yeah, dude, shout out, shout out. Also, and one of the last bit of the fun, non serious, hard hitting questions that got thrown our way was Chris Williams asked if it was true that I used to be a puppet master. That's actually false. I didn't used to be a puppet master. I still am a puppet master. I was a puppeteer in a church-based puppet ministry for 8 years of my life. and those skills don't just leave. You have them for good. So
Puppeteer for life.
Puppeteer for life, man. And it was funny. Drew sent me a couple months ago, a picture of when he and his his oldest son Isaac were hanging out. Isaac had a puppet in his hand, and I was like, "That's right, Drew. Train up a child in the way he should go. Good job. Proud of you." Okay, now we're getting into some real questions. This one of our friends asked us about breakups and how painful that those can be. Um, do you think that how do you look for God in situations like breakups that just seem to be purely hurtful?
Okay. Yeah. Breakup question. Uh, usually when I'm talking one on one with somebody, because that's pretty much the only way I guess I've ever had. I don't know that I've ever encountered that in like one of our Q&A sessions. Um, it's the reminder. It's just one of those moments that reminds us that all of our relationships are temporary,
Hmm.
except our relationship with God. That's the only relationship that's eternal. Because even when people come and ask, the Pharisees come and try to trip up Jesus, and they say, Jesus, when we're after the resurrection, who's going to be married to this woman had five husbands. Who's she gonna be married to in heaven? And um, Jesus basically looks at them and he says, like, y'all don't even understand what eternal life is like.
Hmm.
And there's just that moment that our earthly relationships are all temporary. Now they're all good, they're all critical, they all shape us to become more like Christ, and so we should lean into them and invest in them. But it is a reminder for us that our relationship with God is the eternal relationship, and that's what we lean on, and everything else falls under that. And when those relationships fall under that, that's when they have the right level of importance. Like my relationship with my wife, where I actually put that above my relationship with God, that's when stuff will start to fall apart.
Yeah.
But when God is number one, and then my relationship with Christy out of that sits right here, like then I can think about my relationship with Christy correctly. Now, don't get me wrong, like that relationship is more important than every other relationship except my relationship with God. So I think breakups remind us of that. Also, they are an opportunity to, I think, help us kind of step back and see, like, hey, have I been prioritizing my other relationships correctly? One
Hmm.
mistake I think I see a lot of dating couples make um, is the person they're dating becomes the person who there's sort of like an unhealthy dependence. And I think
Hmm.
I think that because you want that person to be like a best friend to you, and I get that,
Hmm.
and that's not a bad thing. But I think where the problem comes is when that person you're dating uh, knows things about you that you're hiding from your Christian community, or you're not sharing with your Christian community. So, like, if you're a guy and you're in a serious relationship and your girlfriend knows things about you that your group of believing buddies doesn't know about you, like, I think you've probably got a problem at that point, because you're
Hmm.
putting weight on that dating relationship that it was never meant to carry.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
but like that's what God gave you the body of Christ for. But when you
Hmm.
have a group of guys, and you could say the same thing for girls, when you have a group that knows everything about you and you've got nothing to hide, you can
Hmm.
walk into that dating relationship in freedom, and you can treat it in a way where you're pursuing, I think, what God's called us to in marriage, which is to be totally open and vulnerable with
Hmm.
somebody, with no fear. Um, so I don't know if I'm even answering the question. Breakups suck. There's no way around it. They're hard, and they will be hard.
Hmm.
And but I think the more they become even harder, to the point of unnecessarily so, when you put that relationship above God, and you put that relationship above your relationships with brothers and sisters in Christ. I don't know if that's enough of an answer. Maybe you would weigh in, Thomas, because I also know you're a more compassionate guy than I am.
Yeah. Well, no, breakups do suck, and I definitely get that. Like sometimes when the hurt is that deep, like because there's different kinds of hurts, and that's a kind of hurt that just like cuts super deep, especially if you were like if it was a long-term relationship or a relationship that you got particularly like your heart wrapped up in when that when it feels like a part of yourself is being ripped apart. Um, uh, that's yeah, that's tough. But it I think it becomes easier. Like one of the ways to find healing in that is to again, like you said, refocus your lens on the relationship you have with the Lord, which a lot of people might see as a cop out answer, but it's just the truth, honestly, because you like if you're filling God shaped holes with people that are like God shaped holes in your heart with the people that are in your life, people that you're dating, people that you're friends with, um, basically making people your idols, then they're going to let you down constantly. Because if you look to anything that's not God to be your God, then it's going to fall short of what you're expecting it to do. Um,
Absolutely.
because people fail you, people let you down, people will hurt you. God will not. And it's just the simple, like opposite relationship that there is there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does suck. It's gonna be hard, and I think that hurt like you can definitely now have like I mean you can definitely hurt and know that it's okay to hurt. Just because you're sad someone broke up with you doesn't mean that you made them an idol. It just
Yeah,
means
absolutely.
that
Absolutely.
you liked them a lot, and it hurts
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
don't like you anymore. So, or you guys couldn't work out a thing in your relationship, and now that things have moved on past that, that's okay. Your life will continue um, because your life is not predicated on existing with that one person. Um, your value is not found in that one person. Your value is found in the eternal God who created you and made you in His image and died for you. That's the important thing. Um, I think that's probably what I'd say from a
Yeah.
compassionate standpoint. Hey, if you're just joining us, we're doing a live Q&A session. We're just taking questions from you guys and also going back to some of our reservoir questions that we had from last week's Q&A. So if you've got a question, shoot it in the chat. We'd be happy to get to it, but we've still got a couple of backup questions to keep us going. So yeah, be sure to shoot us a question if you got one. Um, the next one was from our good friend Carly Sparks, who said, "What can we do if we're pretty much stuck at home? How can we use this time wisely when we don't know what is next for us?"
Man, that is a great question. Uh, it's a it's a great time to invest in your family for
Mm-hmm.
sure. That's kind of where my family's been focused. We've taken the opportunity. College ministry can be tough because 3 nights out of the week I have something for sure. Plus, often just being in ministry and doing college ministry stuff gets thrown in other
Mm-hmm.
nights of the week. So we've taken this time that we get to be home as a family together every night. But also one thing I've done a lot of is just FaceTiming people, video conferencing, catching up, checking in on the people that I was discipling or leading, reaching out to people who uh, may not be strong in their walk or may not follow Jesus and check in on them and have the opportunity to go deeper. I found that people are very open to that. Uh, I'm pretty introverted, so like, being at home all day by myself doesn't super bother me, but uh, it's kind of my dream world, to be honest. But that's not true for most people, and even I like get to a point where like, okay, yeah, I need to talk to somebody because I'm like seeing stuff. So uh, yeah, I think just taking the time to reach out and even think like, okay, basically the world just totally changed in 2 weeks, right? But like our mission hasn't changed. And so thinking, okay, well, our methods need to change, even though our mission as believers, as followers of Jesus hasn't. And I can be a part of reimagining that. And I'm gonna take some chances and risk some stuff, and that's gonna be cool. That's gonna be awesome. So that's kind of where I would go is like, hey, you've got a lot of like, in our ministry, we're big fans of setting people free to try new things, and it's cool if they fail because you tried something, and I think the Lord's going to bless it. So
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my thought.
Yeah, I know a lot of the guys that I've like. One of the guys I've been discipling has been really excited because like at first like it was really rough. He was having like a bit of issue adjusting to the new situations, but he just saw some opportunity to spend more time in the Word and spend more time with the Lord, and in that his walk has actually gotten a little stronger because especially for UMC students who are tuned in right now, it's very easy to find yourself very busy on MC's campus to where you've got basically your whole day planned out hour to hour from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. and probably sometimes beyond. Um, from your classes, which are important, obviously, from grabbing lunch with friends to going to work if you're working, to sitting in cups for 5 hours, to going to this cab event or going to your club or tribe social event, to going to the BSU, to going to RUF, to go into this, that, the other. And then all of a sudden, like you have no margin in your schedule. And being like myself, like I living with margin um is is like something that I was convicted with because in college I was super busy all the time to where like I had no time to just plug stuff into my schedule because and the reason I say like living with margin is like you have your schedule, but then you have this little bit of time that is always open that you're protecting, not for rest, not for I mean maybe for rest, but not necessarily just for rest, not necessarily just for spending time with friends. It's whatever's needed at that time because I think that that might be like at least that's the way that the Lord convicted me is to just like know like have this time open for whatever I need you to do. Like if one of my friends is like hardcore struggling and they need someone that they can unload on, like I can be there for them because I have that space in my time. In college, especially like junior year of college, like I had no time for that. People would text me and be like, "Hey, man, can we talk? Like, I've been going through a lot of stuff, and I need to get some stuff off my chest." And I'd be like, "Yeah, how's 5 a.m. tomorrow morning? That's like the only time I have free." And that wouldn't work for them, so they would go without getting to unload, you know? So, or like all of a sudden I don't have time to share the gospel with people anymore. And that's not good either. Like
No.
you need to be setting aside time for that. So, but now, you got that time and more, because even with work, like after college, I've been finding myself pretty busy, and not having super like a whole lot of margin. But right now, I got margin and I got margin for days. I ain't got nothing like I got work and like nothing else going on because I can't go drive to see people. So I don't know. I think that you can use this time. I think that there's a lot of ways to use this time effectively, but there's also a lot of ways to use it ineffectively. I think that there's a time and a place for binging a series on Netflix, and I think that you can definitely spend some time resting and like passing time like that. But I think that there's also more productive ways to spend your time. I think that you can definitely um, try to learn a new skill, read a book, or better yet, get connected with the people that the Lord's put in your life. Um, so yeah. Well, I think that's about all the time we have today for questions. So we're going to be back with another Q&A next Thursday. So shoot us more questions. If you want to if you think of a question ahead of time, you can DM this channel. I mean this account. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can also shoot us some questions by shooting us a message. You can also email me at tgray@morrisonheights.org, and I'd be happy to put your questions in the little reservoir so we can have it for future weeks. So yeah,
Cool.
Drew, thanks for
Enjoyed it,
being here,
man.
man.
All right. See y'all
All
later.
right. See you later. Rest of you guys, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow this Instagram page, and check out our sermon last night if you missed it. And be sure to keep following us tomorrow. We've got a special guest speaker for our devotion. Our friend Chris Williams will be joining us. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to hearing what that guy has to say. But until then, I will see you guys later. Peace out. Be safe.